Hey, it's Nick, and welcome back to the channel. And here I have the LEGO Transformers Age of Extinction challenge. Now, this was a challenge that was exclusive to my Instagram account. You can follow me over there at nick_bricks_88 to see updates on future challenges, maybe? Who knows? This was hosted from mid-July to late August. It ended August 23rd and started July 14th. I have currently pinned in my Instagram account like all of the rules and stuff for the challenge. I'm not going to be going over everything in this video because it's not entirely necessary. I'll only bring up the important things that you need to know. So if there's anything you want clarified that isn't talked about in this video, check that post out. I also have a stories highlight on my Instagram account going over updates of the challenge, and also it shows all of the people who joined at some point. By the way, a lot of people joined. Sadly, only a few of them were able to complete their builds in time. Some people had other things going on. They couldn't get things in time submitted on time. Most of the builds here are completed, though. There is one or two builders that sadly couldn't get the pieces in time or had to submit a work in progress, but that's what we have to deal with. So yeah, the way this is going to work is that each of the builds are going to be individually graded out of 10. So like, for example, on screen is Age of Extinction Drift, and the robot mode looks really accurate, and the car mode also looks really accurate. So I'm going to give it an 8 because it's really good. It's not outstanding. It's not a 9. It's not a 10. It's just a really solid vehicle mode, so it gets an 8. And then LEGO Prime Films comes in and says, I agree, that's an 8. So he puts down an 8, and the average of those is going to be the average score. All right, pretty simple. All right, sweet. And then the total amount for each build will be added together for the grand total, and the team with the most points wins. Pretty simple? No? Well, too bad. We're starting off with the Autobots.
Humans have asked us to play by their rules. Well, the rules have just changed.
Before we take the time to go over each and every builder's build, I'd like to go through all of the people who completed their builds. For the Autobot side, we have Gunpla Prime 457, Jurassic Rex Lego, Lego Formers 23, and the infamous Nico Pepsi Man. And I couldn't be happier right now knowing that I have surpassed Nico Pepsi Man in subscribers, the only thing that matters anymore. JK, I don't care. First up, we have Gunpla Prime's Age of Extinction Scorn. And I think this guy looks really good. The Spinosaurus mode, very accurate to the movie. It also looks like what I think that a Spinosaurus should look like. Robot mode, also super accurate. So in total, I'm going to say about 9 out of 10. It's a really solid start to this. Let's see what LEGO Prime Film says.
This guy looks great. There's lots of detail in both modes. The proportions look pretty good for the most part. The rustiness gives it a good, accurate color. So I'd give this guy a solid 8 out of 10.
Doing some slight calculations, we come up to an average score of 8.5 for our first build. Now, on to the next one. Next up, we have Jurassic Rex Legos Age of Extinction Optimus Prime. I think this is honestly a really solid looking vehicle mode. It seems to be pretty close to LEGO City Scale, which some people consider to be more minifigure accurate. And the robot mode looks really good. He also showed it off with his G1 Prime. I'd say this is a solid 7 out of 10. Let's see what LEGO Prime Film says.
Overall, this guy is a solid build. It looks like most vehicle parts are hidden pretty well. He has a few gaps that could use filling, but other than that, he looks pretty good. I'd give it a 4.5.
Averaging out the scores, this comes up to 5.75 out of 10. On to the next build. Next up is Nico Pepsi Man, or as you might know him, That One Strange Guy's Lego Grimlock. As you may know, Nico builds in a smaller scale, and I think that he really pulled off this Grimlock design, and I think it's honestly better than his previous version. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Let's see what Lego Prime Film says.
Considering the small size of this build, the details are captured pretty well. The proportions look pretty good and it's got a nice color, so I'd give this a good 6 out of 10.
And there you have it. That average is going to come out to 7. On to the next build. Next up is LEGO Formers 23's new Camaro Bumblebee. Honestly, I think the robot looks really good. And honestly, I have a kind of a hard time figuring out if it can actually stand up. Because I feel like it wouldn't be able to with how complicated it looks like it is. And then you get to the the vehicle mode, sorry. And if I'm being honest, the vehicle mode really tears down this build. The robot mode looks amazing, but vehicle mode just isn't there, so I'm going to have to give this a 6.5 out of 10. Let's see what Lego Prime Film says.
The robot mode looks amazing. The proportions look pretty spot on to the movie. His car mode needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but other than that, this is a good build. I'll give it a 5.5.
That average score is going to come out to 6. Now we're done with the Autobots, onto the Decepticons, and don't worry, we're going to total up the scores at the end, but you can do the math yourself.
Whoa.
Much like the Autobots team, a lot of people joined, but only 5 were able to complete builds. First off, we have Masterpiece Builds, and then we have NP Red Bull, Avery Still 76, and NO Builds. Alright, let's check out what they have in store. First is NP Red Bull's dispenser, based on the dispenser that was in the Transformers Age of Extinction toy line. Now, honestly, this is a really unique build. I really like its inclusion. It brings some great variety to the Decepticon team, despite not actually being in the movie, but don't worry, I'll allow it. It looks really solid, I think. Unfortunately, it doesn't turn into the 2007 pop vending machine, but that's not what the toy does, so who can really be that mad about that? But yeah, really solid. I'm gonna give it a 6. Let's see what Lego Prime Film says.
The proportions are great. He could use some tiles for a more smoother look, and his head could be a little wider, and maybe a few more accurate colors, but everything else looks good. He's got some good detail, so I'd give it a good 4 out of 10.
And that average is going to come out to 5 points. On to the next build. Next up is the first of many lockdowns. Well, first of 2 lockdowns. And it's NO Builds' lockdown. Vehicle mode looks really solid. It needs a little bit of work in the front and maybe some taillights, I guess. Other than that, it's really solid. Probably one of Noah's best builds yet. Looking forward to seeing what Lego Prime Film says. I'm going to give this a solid 8. I think it looks really good.
The robot could use some more detailing around the chest area, and the proportions are a little off, but it's pretty good looking overall. It's got good colors and all that, so I give it a good 5 out of 10.
And that average score is going to come up to 6.5. On to the next build. Next up is our last lockdown, and that would be Masterpiece Builds' lockdown. Now, this is kind of more in the style of his G1 builds, and honestly, I think it looks really good. It could be like the great basis for a legacy style movieverse universe lockdown. I'm gonna give it a solid 7.5. I think it looks really good, and I love the gun head.
The vehicle mode looks pretty clean, and it gets the car shape really well. The robot mode proportions are pretty close to the movie, and in most places the coloring is accurate, so I'd give this a solid 6 out of 10.
And that average score is going to come up to 6.75. On to the next build. Next up is Avery Still 76's Two Heads. Now, this guy kind of did something very difficult and gave a vehicle mode to Two Heads, which we don't know what he turned into. And he decided to go with an SUV kind of thing, similar vehicle mode to the Dreads. I personally would have went for Shockwaves vehicle mode, just with 2 heads in the front. But this looks really good. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10.
The proportions are slightly off in both modes, but he captures the look very nicely, considering he doesn't get much screen time in the movie. So I'll give this a good 4.3.
And that average score is going to come up to 4.4. On to our last build. Finally, we have Team Lee builds' KSI tracks. Unfortunately, he couldn't complete this build in time for the challenge, and the Brooklyn order also didn't come in. So I'm going to have to deduct 5 points right away. But honestly, this looks really promising. I'm going to have to give it a solid 4, just based off of this.
It looks good so far, but since the build's incomplete, it's kind of hard to fully judge it. So I'd give it a 1.8, but I can't wait to see the finished result.
And that average score is going to come up to 2.9. All right, let's add everything up from both sides. All right, now it's time to add up all of the points from the Autobot side. First up, we have an average score of 8.5 for Gunpla Prime's Scorn Mock. Next, we add Jurassic Rex Lego's average score of 5.75 to our total. Next, we add the 7 points from Nico Pepsi Man's Grimlock. Then lastly, we add the 6 points from Lego Formers 23's Bumblebee, and then we get the grand total of 27.25 points for the Autobot team. Let's see what the Decepticons are up to. We're going to take the 5 points from NP Red Bull's Dispenser and add it to our total. Next, we're going to add the 6.5 from NO Builds' Lockdown. And then the 6.75 from Masterpiece Builds' Lockdown. Then the 4.4 points from Avery Stell's Two Heads. Then lastly, the 2.9 points from Teen Lee Builds' KSI Tracks. And now we have the grand total for our Decepticons. And that total is 25.55. All right, let's see who won. And we have our winner by the slimmest margins. The Autobots win by 1.7 points. Thank you all for participating. It was a lot of fun to see all of these builds, and I can't wait for the next challenge. Who knows? Drop any ideas down below. Remember, please check out these guys. All of their Instagram links will be in the description. Seriously, check them out. They're all amazing. Now I need to get back to not posting for several months. Bye.